The alarm cut through the training deck before I even saw her move. My name is Doran, and I come from a hunting line that has never once needed to ask another species for help staying alive. We are fast, we are strong. Our claws can open a hull plate in seconds. And on that morning, all of that meant nothing, because the moment the warning lights turned red, every predator in that room froze, except for one small human girl named Elena. She was sitting cross-legged near the back wall, lacing up her boots, when the containment field around the training creature failed. It was a young sand runner, imported from a desert world for combat drills, and it was never supposed to get loose. It did. And it came straight at the nearest warm bodies in the room, which happened to be two of my crewmates, Priya and Callum, both frozen in place with their claws half raised, doing absolutely nothing useful at all. I want to be honest with you. I did not move either. Every instinct in my body told me to brace, to fight, to defend myself first and think later. That is what predators do. We do not hesitate, but we also do not think clearly when fear grabs us by the throat. Elena did not have claws. She did not have armor. She had a training baton lying on the bench beside her, and she picked it up without any wasted motion, like she had done this 100 times before, though I knew for a fact she had not. She stepped between Priya and the sand runner, and she did not shout. She did not scream. She simply planted her feet, lowered her center of gravity, and made herself into a wall. The sand runner skidded to a stop in front of her. It hissed, low and long, testing her, the way predators test anything that refuses to run. Elena did not blink. I have hunted animals larger than that sand runner on 3 different worlds. I know what it looks like when a predator decides you are not worth the fight. It happened right there, in front of me, in under 4 seconds. The sand runner's ears folded back, its tail dropped, and it turned and ran the other direction, back toward the containment door the engineers were already sealing. Elena set the baton down, helped Priya up, and asked if everyone was okay. Nobody answered her for a long moment, because nobody knew what to say. That was the first time I understood that this quiet young woman was not what she seemed. It would not be the last. I started paying closer attention after that day, not because I was suspicious of her, but because some old and stubborn part of my brain refused to stop watching her, the same way you cannot stop watching a storm on the horizon, even when you know it is still far away. She never spoke much in the mess hall. She sat with 2 other humans, a tall young man named Grant and a quieter woman named Fiona, and they talked about ordinary things, food rations, old music from their homeworld, a game involving a ball and complicated rules that none of us aliens could ever fully follow, no matter how many times Grant tried to explain it. But even in those quiet moments, I noticed something odd. Every predator species on that station, whether they were built for speed, or strength, or ambush, seemed to unconsciously choose seats that kept some distance between themselves and her. Nobody discussed it. Nobody admitted it. We just did it, the way you avoid standing too close to the edge of a very tall cliff, without needing anyone to tell you why. The second time I saw her true nature, we were 3 weeks into a joint exercise near an asteroid field, testing new emergency drills before a real deployment. I was paired with her for a 2-person survival simulation, which meant we would be locked into a section of the station with limited oxygen, limited light, and a simulated hull breach to solve together. I expected to lead. I am larger than her, faster than her, and my species has flown through worse conditions than any simulation could create. Instead, within the first 2 minutes, she had already mapped the entire emergency panel layout from memory, calculated the fastest route to the auxiliary oxygen line, and started giving me clear, calm instructions, without a single wasted word. I followed her lead because it was the only thing that made sense. Halfway through the exercise, the simulation software glitched. A real spark ignited near one of the wiring conduits, and for 1 heartbeat, the fake emergency became an actual one. Smoke filled the narrow corridor. My eyes are not built for smoke. They watered instantly. and I lost sight of the exit. Elena grabbed my arm, not with panic, but with total certainty, and pulled me 3 steps to the left, away from a wall panel that was about to overheat. She had noticed the temperature change before I even smelled the smoke. She pressed a cool cloth over my eyes, guided me down the corridor by memory alone, and got us both to the exit hatch before station security even finished arriving. When the safety officers pulled the door open, coughing and waving away smoke, they found the 2 of us sitting calmly against the wall, waiting. Elena apologized for the mess. She apologized, as if she had not just saved both our lives with nothing but memory, patience, and a steady hand. After that day, even Skarn, the oldest and most decorated hunter on our crew, a being who had led boarding actions against pirate vessels twice the size of our station, began speaking to her with something close to caution. Not fear exactly. Respect, built on top of something older than respect, something closer to recognition. I finally asked her about it, weeks later, during a quiet shift in the observation deck, where the stars stretched out in long silver lines around us. I asked her why she never seemed afraid, not of the Sandrunner, not of the fire, not of any of us, even though every predator on this station could tear her apart without much effort at all. She thought about the question for a long moment before answering. She told me that back on her homeworld, humans had spent most of their early history being hunted by things far larger and far more dangerous than any single human could ever be. She said her ancestors learned something important in those early days, something that never really left the species, even after they built cities and ships and left their homeworld behind. She said fear only helps you survive if you let it sharpen your mind instead of freezing it. She said most predators react. Humans learn to prepare. I asked her if she had ever actually fought anything dangerous before joining this crew. She smiled, just slightly, and said that preparing for danger and running from it were never really different skills. She had spent years training in emergency response, wilderness survival, and crisis leadership before she ever left her homeworld, long before any alien species had even approached her people about joining a combined crew. She had chosen this life on purpose, knowing exactly what kind of beings she would be working beside. That answer stayed with me long after our shift ended. I realized then that we had been afraid of the wrong thing all along. We assumed danger came from claws, from teeth, from raw physical strength, because that is the language every hunting species on this station had grown up speaking. Elena spoke a different language entirely. Hers was built from patience, calm thinking, and an unwillingness to freeze when everything around her told her to. Months later, during a real emergency near a mining outpost, when a genuine hostile creature broke through a cargo bay and threatened half our crew, it was Elena who organized the evacuation, calculated the safest routes, and kept everyone moving with calm, clear instructions, while the rest of us, predators bred for exactly this kind of moment, struggled to keep our own instincts in check. Nobody was hurt that day. Every single member of our crew made it out safely, largely because one quiet young woman refused to let fear slow her thinking, even for a second. I think back often to that very first day, when she sat quietly in the corner of the training deck, lacing up her boots, completely unaware that every predator around her had already, without meaning to, decided she was the most dangerous person in the room. We were right, in the end, just not in the way any of us expected. She never raised her voice. She never showed off her skills. She simply stayed calm when everyone else panicked. And time after time, that calm proved far more powerful than any claw or fang our species had ever developed. I used to believe that being a predator meant being the strongest, the fastest, or the most feared being in any room. Now I understand that the most dangerous person in any room is often the one who never lets fear take control of their mind, no matter what walks through the door. That lesson came from a quiet young woman who sat in the back row, said very little, and never once needed to prove herself to anyone, because everyone around her had already understood it without a single word.